All right, we are now recording. Good morning, everyone. Good to see you. Let me make a few announcements before we get into our session. Let me turn this on. Okay, everybody, make sure you mute your microphones. Let me share my screen. I'm going to go to your page. Today is the 26th. We are in week 4. Yes, we are in week 4. I got a little feedback. Make sure you mute your microphones. All right, we are in week 4. Just a few announcements. Make sure that you complete your week 4 discussion post. You have an assignment, and I'm going to go over that. You have an assignment this week on origin stories. One more announcement, we will have a guest lecturer on Monday, November the 7th. Monday, November the 7th. And something is going on again. Hold on, everybody. Something's going on with my screen. Okay, students, can you see me sharing the screen again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Something just happened. All right, once again, we are going to have a guest lecturer on Monday, November the 7th at 7 p.m. Professor Naja Young is going to speak to us about traditional African religions. This is going to be, your attendance is important, so put it on your calendar. If you are working, and you have a job where you cannot be on the computer at that time, please let me know. But if not, I am expecting your attendance because we don't want to have a guest and we're not here. We're virtual. Okay, so that is going to be Monday, November 7th, day before election day. Make sure you vote at 7 p.m. Also, for I think I'm going to do some extra credit here. I want you to invite a friend. I don't have the link yet, so I'm going to give you a link for a friend, family member, whoever who may just want to learn a little bit more about traditional African religions. You can always bring a friend. I'm going to give you some extra credit for that as well. This will be virtual. We don't have to be in person. So I would love for you all to show up, bring a friend. And remember, once again, if you are working and you have the type of job where you cannot be on the computer or the phone or whatever at that time, I understand, keep your job, but we want to make sure that we are in attendance, and when we have a lecturer, and attendance will be taken for that evening. Let's go to week 4. Week 4, we are talking about origin stories. Origin stories. Your week 4 discussion this week, you are going to watch a video that's going to talk about origins of religion. Okay, so in your week 4 discussion, you're going to watch this video about origins of religion. When you watch that, afterwards, you're going to answer a couple of questions. So we're going to talk about religions today and how they help us to make sense of the world. You're going to share your personal reflections of that video in your discussion post. And does it help you in your own religious belief? You're going to answer the other questions. Why do people seek out different religions in their lives? And what purpose will it serve that particular person? All right. So for your week 4 discussion, you are watching a video and then you are going to answer your discussion questions. Also in week 4, there is another video assignment, and it talks about the Babylonian Genesis. We're going to talk about origins today and how things got started, how people believe the world got started. So you're going to watch a video In this particular assignment, let me make sure I have it. Yeah. In this particular assignment, you are going to watch a video that is called The Babylonian Genesis. The Babylonian Genesis. And it is an ancient creation story. It was found in the middle 19th century when a lot of archaeologists were digging and they found these particular stories on clay tablets. And it talks about origins and how they believe the world came to be in the Near East. Now, it's interesting that some of the things in the Babylonian Genesis, which is an ancient creation story, were similar to things found in the Christian Bible. So I'm not going to give it away. You're going to watch the Babylonian Genesis video. And then after you watch that video for the assignment, you are going to share your thoughts in a 1 to 2 page paper. Excuse me. You're going to share if you had ever heard of that story before. Does this give you a new way of looking at creation? Did you learn anything new? Many times, when we take these types of courses, we have one way of thinking, and then we become open to different ways of thinking because other people may have different thoughts. So sometimes, make sure you guys can see me. Can you all see me and hear me all right?
Yes.
All right, okay. It looks like I was freezing up a little bit. All right, and so with the discussion for week 4, we're talking about creation. You're going to watch that video, and then your second assignment, you're going to watch the other video, Babylonian Genesis, and you're going to give your feedback on that. Make sure you stick to a page to 2 pages, all right? As I'm transitioning, let me pull up our lesson for today. Please make sure that you do your registration for the spring. Let me see if I can get back to our class. There are three courses, and we have Survey of Christian History that will run in the first part of the semester. That's January the 30th. Excuse me, I'm gonna say that again. The second part of the semester, that'll be January the 30th to May 4th. We have New Testament that will run January the 30th to May 4th as well. And then Christian worship, that'll run separately, and that is January the 9th through March the 3rd, okay? James, I got your email about the books. Let me get those books. The book list is coming together, and I will send that out to you all, those people who are registered for spring 23, so you can get ahead and start getting your books ordered. All right. All right, everybody, let me go ahead and pull up our lesson for today. We're going to talk about origin stories. Give me just a second. All right, everybody, just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen and it says origin, stories, and religion.
Yes.
Super. All right. Thank you. Just need to check in with you. So today we're going to talk about how things got started. Religions always have to make sense of things. So I'm going to ask you this question. Where does a religion come from? Is it always an easy, straightforward answer?
No, it's not.
Oh,
No. Very good. Yeah, no, it's not. They evolve over time, sometimes, and I was going to have you share a little bit of your PowerPoint assignments if we get a chance here. Sometimes it is attributed to one person or maybe a group of people. But when we say where does it come from, there are a lot of answers there. So we can talk about geographically, where it started. You could talk about an individual or individuals that had an ideology to get something moving. But the whole point behind religion is that it came apart or it existed to help people explain their world, to help people understand how they got here, to help people understand why am I in the world and how do I function in the world? Who am I here? Okay. So many times, so when we say it helps us to understand and explain the world, when we talk about, for example, traditional African religions, excuse me, and not just traditional, many times also in Native American religion, for example, let's say it's a thunderstorm. Okay, and that thunderstorm took down a tree, or it was some type of tornado, or some type of flood. Okay, some type of natural event that a person can't do. Those particular religions, let's say if for example, an African religion will say, this particular God got angry and caused this rain to come down, and these two gods were warring, and that's the reason why there was an earthquake. Whether you agree or not, that's not really the point, but somebody mute your microphone. The whole point behind religions is to help people make sense of why is this way. Okay. Why, somebody mute your microphone. Mute, excuse me, make sure you mute your microphones because we're recording. All right, so religions help us to explain our position in the world, meaning that many religions will help us see that someone or something created this big world, okay? And that the people find themselves operating or working within that world for a particular purpose, okay? Now we're going to come up to this question that says, is there a difference between religion or religious, the religious, and the secular? So I want you to think about that. Is there a difference between the religious and the secular? And I'm going to come around to you all. I need somebody to mute your microphone. We're recording. I'm getting a little feedback. So when we say religious, so this is when individuals are following a particular, hold on one second, everybody. Let me see. Let me see. Lester, can you mute your microphone? We want to make sure we're all muted. Everybody go and see if you find your little, there you go. All right. Okay, everybody. So for example, let me go back. Religion. Oh, 1 second. Mr. Lester, can you go down and let's mute your microphone because we're recording. There we go. Okay. Thank you, everyone. All right. So let me get back here. When we come up to the question of what is religious and secular, when we say religious, this means the person or the people are following maybe a set of rules for a greater good. And when we come to the word secular, this is what some people may say, that's not religious, that's outside of the realm of religious. Now we can open our microphones. Some people say, yes, there is a difference. And some people say no. All right, let's try to go one at a time. If you would like to answer, you don't have to. Is there a difference between the religious and the secular? Who says yes?
Yes.
All right, that was Mr. Lee. Go ahead. Yes, and tell me why you think so.
Well, you stated that the religious are are people following a set of rules or established procedures. And the secular actually doesn't believe in that, in my opinion. So there's no standard for them to follow.
No standard. Okay. Okay, very good. Anybody else say yes? Or if you say no,
What if you say maybe?
or maybe. Come on, give me your maybe.
Maybe I think I think it's you should, the church should follow certain things that the world doesn't follow. But in this modern age, the church tends to follow a lot of things that the secular world follows. So it's kind of ambiguous, or it's kind of cloudy,
Clown.
not trying to say, well, this is what the church people do, this is what the people who don't go to church do. So I
Mhm.
think in our society, it's a little different than other societies.
Very good. So I heard a maybe from Gloria.
Professor,
Very
this is
good. Anybody?
Marshall.
Yes, go ahead, Marshall.
Okay, I think it's not because the religious group have rules, regulation, have disciplines. They have an order, but the secular, they don't. They do not. They can just do what they want if they want. And I know the religious, they do. They bring the world into the church, but the church have rules and regulation. But the secular, they don't. They can just do, and what they think today is right, they do what today is right.
Okay. Now remember, everybody, this is opinion. There's no right or wrong because everybody's going to have their own perspective. So I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong. We are digging into that question. Anybody else before I jump in?
Dr. Bird, this is Freddie. I think
Ready?
let's just look at music, for example.
That's what I was
Yeah.
going in.
Yeah. That I think you look at that, that's definitely a difference. Like I said, we do as Christian believers, we have certain guidelines that would say there's certain things you won't hear say in a religious song, but you go out and hear a secular song, you don't know what you might hear. It depends on who's singing and what they got on their mind. That's the way I look
Okay.
at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm sorry, you see me writing down, just taking the roll. I want to jump in there. I'm just going to challenge you a little bit. I was reading an article, and I'm going to find this article. It was one of my old professors from seminary, and it gave me a different way of thinking. And remember, in this course, we are exploring. We're scholars, so nobody's right or wrong. In the article, it explored how, what's the best word that I can say it here? Sometimes we do divide certain things and say, oh, this is religious over here and this is secular over here. And the article challenged me, or challenged the reader, should I say, to see all things, even some secular things, could be religious. And in the article, okay, I think it was Freddie was talking about music. Let's say, well, maybe like in a Christian context, you may talk about a hymn that could move you, that could encourage you. And then maybe there is what the world will call a secular song that could also move or encourage you to be your best self or something like that. So I just say all that to say, I read that article and it opened my eyes a little bit, like, maybe there are some things that we see that are in the what we call secular realm that have, what's the word, religious connotation to it, or inspirational movement to it, as well as maybe there are some things, go ahead, I see a hand, in the religious sector as well that can, what's the word, inspire or move. So I say all that to say, in that particular article, I'm trying to find it for you. In the particular article that I was reading, the author was challenging us to see that it's almost like, I wish I had like a circle. And the circle she had, it was like overlapping. Like this, I know this is a bad analogy. She had like the religion, say this is like religion, and then she had another circle, and that was like the secular. And there were some things that were intertwining. And it just, I just say all that to say it was really interesting. And it helped me just to kind of open my eyes to see that, okay, let's say, for example, when you get together with your family and friends, okay, it's November. Oh, no, November next week, right? We are
Yeah.
getting ready for Thanksgiving, and then we're gonna roll right into Christmas. And I know for many of us on here, I want you to think about this. When we get together with our family and friends for Thanksgiving, it is, for me, I'm talking for me, from Professor Berry, it is a religious experience. And I'm not necessarily talking about we are reading scripture. I'm not necessarily talking about we are praying or any, that will happen. But we are laughing and we are eating and we are playing spades and we and we are together. And so when we talk about, so what I want you to start thinking is it always, what's the word, black and white? So that, okay, I see a hand. Just wanted to challenge you there. I see a hand. I think it was Gloria.
Professor, I was thinking before you start talking, that our Christmas and our Easter, and trying to think of something else, they are very much taken from secular. That is not the way
Um,
that's not the way the early church
no,
celebrated Christmas. And for many
no.
years, that is something, and it's more so in the Western world, that we celebrate Christmas with Santa Claus and we celebrate Easter with the Easter Bunny. I'm not saying anybody on here does that, and there's nothing wrong if you do necessarily, but that's how we, the church, most of the church celebrates those holidays. So that's what came to mind when you were talking about
Yes,
the meshing of secular and religious.
yes. Yeah, and it can kind of you just get a big ball of stuff. Very good. James, I saw your hand.
Yes. And I was thinking, I was trying to get my thoughts together on this also, because there seems to be so much overlap today. As a matter of fact, even when talking about the music, and a song like "A Change Is Going to Come" by Sam Cooke comes to mind, where I know for the most part it is considered in the secular, but it could almost be a spiritual in some cases. So I think we have now, and I guess I don't know whether it's good or bad. Because sometimes I think that one of our problems as the church, this is sometimes I think there's not enough distinction between us. That when we're trying to convey to maybe non-believers the importance of a spiritual life, sometimes I think it is so cloudy now, is how it's hard to give that distinction. So I think sometimes the way we have the way we have blended the religious and the secular in today's society, it makes it even a little bit more challenging. But I think it's hard sometimes to really tell the difference.
Yes. Good points. Good points, everybody. So I want to, with that discussion, I wanted to challenge you, and I'm gonna get back to our lesson. I wanted to challenge you to think deeply or think broader about that division between what is religious and what is secular. Like somebody, like as Mr. James said, certain songs, a change is gonna come. Um, what's her name? Ooh, my favorite, Whitney Houston. I believe the children are our future. Or even now, you could bring it forward. There are certain songs that just hit people. Beyonce has a song, and it is escaping me. Um, it is escaping me. You won't break my soul. There are, certain things that can just hit somebody and say, you know what, this is it. I'm empowered. I'm gonna get up. I'm gonna move. I'm gonna be better. And yes, there are like lines and certain things you'll do in certain places. But anyway, I wanted to challenge you with that correct question, so we look a little bit deeper on the secular and the religious. Well, let's keep playing with that word.
Professor,
What is, yes,
one other thing came to mind,
yes,
and again, this is sort of real life. I know some people who never will go to church,
yes,
but will give and be of more service to the community uh, than some people who are always in the church. And I think that also becomes part of this.
true.
What are we looking at, whether it's religious or secular, in some of the results?
Very good, thank you. These discussions, remember y'all, we're discussing, we're scholars, we're digging it up, we're unearthing things. And so this helps us to think deeper, to think wider. Thank you, Mr. James. Let's keep playing with that word. I have a question for you, students. What is considered? What do you consider religious? So we talked earlier, remember we talked earlier, we said, certain songs you may say, this is a religious song, this is a hymn or something that I like, or this is a, Christian song, or a Hindu hymn, that the person would consider that to be religious. There could be places that we consider religious. I want you to look at the two pictures of places that I have on the screen. We have a beautiful mosque, probably in a Middle Eastern country. You see that? And then down at the bottom, we've got a nice water park. Looks like, I think that's the one in the Bahamas. I would love to be there right now. All right, so question for you. Let me hear from somebody I haven't heard from. Which place out of these two pictures would you say, oh, that's religious?
Naturally, I would choose the one on top, but
Mhm.
there are probably some people who would choose the low one. The mosque would be more religious to me.
Sure. All right. So the mosque, we would probably go with a mosque or a church, a particular place. And I think most of us probably would pick the mosque up top. Anybody would pick the bottom picture, the water park?
No.
No,
No.
it's not on the screen anymore.
Oh, no, what's going on?
I see it.
See, this thing is acting up. Okay, let me do it again. You let me know if you can't see my,
So, Professor, can a place be religious at sometimes and non-religious sometimes? Let's take for example a small storefront store
uh-huh.
where a church meets I mean, it's rented just for, their service
Yes,
on Sundays.
yes.
And the rest of the week, it's
The rest of the week is something else. I had a friend of mine, they met in a really strange place. They met in a hair salon. They had a church in in a hair salon. And on Sundays, of course, they weren't doing hair in the hair salon, but they would clear out all the chairs, all the hair products and stuff. And so it was just a big, wide open area for them to have their service on Sundays. It was like an odd place, right? So that's a good question. I'm gonna pose that to you all, students. So if it is considered religious on one day out the week, what do you think about the other 6 days?
That's actually funny. For our Morehouse homecoming, we had Neo perform in the
Oh, yeah.
chapel, in the
Oh,
King's
yeah,
Chapel.
tell me.
So it was kind of funny to see, like, people were like, everyone, it was a concert, but a lot of people like didn't want to, people were looking at you like, oh, don't swear, this and that. They're kind of still respecting it as if, church was in session.
I'm just curious, I can't see you. Who just was speaking? Was that Mally?
Yeah, that was Mally, yeah.
Hey, Mally. Mally, what did he sing?
I personally didn't go. Like I
Oh.
was just kind of, kind of just stopped by. But I know he definitely played his hits and stuff like that.
His regular music, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I was just curious.
Mhm.
All right, so that's a very good question. I'm gonna put it back to you, students. So, for example, like Mally said, Neo, popular, what we would call him, what, R&B, hip hop artist, singing
They say it's neo soul.
Neo Soul at the Morehouse Chapel building, right? And he was singing. Was the building unsecular?
To them, but
Hmm?
it may not make sense to them though.
So was the chapel unreligious that day when Neo came? Did it? There's no right or wrong answer. We're digging.
Miss Berry,
Yes.
this is Janice. I was just thinking about that. That is a good question, but because the Lord lives in us, so we are not the physical building, but we are the tabernacle of God. It's where He dwells inside of us. So whether we go in the storefront or even in a nightclub, if we're going in there for the right reasons, get what I'm saying? I think that it's okay. But if you're gonna make this a place that you will call your place of worship, at some point you have to dedicate it to the Lord. You know what I'm saying? If it's not a place that you settle in as the place that you hollowed out to actually meet, then going in periodically or weekly until you find that place you want to dedicate unto the Lord, then I think it's fine. But we are the tabernacle. The Lord lives in us. So wherever we go, He's with us.
All right. I'm gonna throw this out here to make you think too. Remember, we're just pressing the question. We're opening our minds. So I'm at work right now. So I have an office, and I sometimes want to steal away. I may go to my car, or guess what, y'all? I'll go to the bathroom. I'm gonna go to the stall and shut the door and just have a little minute. That stall could be religious. Other people gonna come in that stall. Other people could come into this office after I leave here or whatever. So I want to open your mind. I want to open your mind, help you press that question a little bit. Let's go back to our pictures. So most of us picked the religious place to be the mosque up top. Now, most of us wouldn't pick the bottom one, the water park. Now I'm going to press this one on you. How are we doing on time? 11:37. What if I got on that water park slide and I thought I just wasn't going to make it? And I was praying to the Lord, please help me get off of this thing. Or maybe I had an accident and I'm dangling up here on this little part right here. And I'm calling out to the Creator God to save and help me.
He's gonna do it.
For me, let's say this did not happen. Let's say if, you had an accident there and you were saved and you were, the ambulance came and got you and you're doing all right. When I go back there for my next vacation, that might be a religious place. Not to say that something tragic has to happen. You could have a wonderful time. You could have got engaged or whatever. So I just want you to think, sometimes we think like the baptism, the Hajj, the communion, those are religious. But also getting together with my family, us having dinner, those type of things can also be considered religious. All right. How y'all doing out there?
Professor,
Yes.
can I go back to the chapel for just a second? Because because thinking about when a place becomes holy ground, for instance, even in the Old Testament,
Yes.
when Moses was approaching the bush, God says, "This is holy ground now."
Mm-hmm.
And we know in some cases, particularly in some of our other religions, a particular place,
yes,
becomes holy, holy ground. That place. Now, again, we're talking about buildings and this, and it was sort of, I was sort of curious, again, with the case example of the chapel, because I'm thinking now, would our church allow let's call it a secular concert come into the church just for secular purposes? I think that gets to be a little bit even more complicated in a way.
it could definitely be complicated because remember, we go back to that question. Ooh, they may wrestle with it and say, oh, this is religious and he might be singing something else.
Right.
So it could definitely be a conflict for some people. But with here, I just want you to, as we're coming up on studying. So remember, we're going to put our study cap on. So we're studying, how do people see what is religious? How do people see what is secular? And could there be some, what's the word I want to say? Overlap, or could there be something that I wasn't thinking of that may be? Okay, I heard a voice.
Professor, I'm hoarse today. I don't know where it came
Uh-oh.
from. But anyway, I was thinking about in the Old Testament and the New, Israel did not have a home until they built the second tabernacle. So they wandered for years in the wilderness. So I think a defined building is a part of religion because they have order, they have things, they have practices, and a building holds that. Used to be that was on, people thought that was only where you could meet God, in the in the religious building. But then even in the New Testament, there was no church structure. They met in homes. So I think that having these defined spaces is definitely a part of religion and it changing over time.
Changing over time, right? Remember, you're not wrong. What I'm just doing is I'm pulling your perspective. And as I heard Miss Gloria say, moving into the temple. Oh, okay, wait. Before in Old Testament, before they moved into the temple, remember the Israelites wandered in the wilderness. Not to say that that wilderness wasn't spiritual or wasn't
Yes,
special to them, and
yes.
oh my goodness, and held weight for them. All right. Let me keep moving here. I'm looking at my time here. I got about 15 minutes. Let's talk about Gandhi real quick. He was a devout Hindu. And one of the key things I just want to hang right here with Gandhi is that even though he was a devout Hindu, he read scriptures from other religions. Even though he followed the Hindu religion. And remember, y'all, this is religious studies class. We're, not knocking anybody's religion, but that's what he chose, right? Now, Gandhi also said, even though this is what I follow, I want to also see the ethical value in other religions as well. And he read other scriptures so that he could study. Not necessarily he was going to become a Christian or he was going to become a Muslim, right? But he studied Christianity and he may have studied Islam to say, I want to treat people right. How do they see uh, 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 what are their principles of treating people right and loving your neighbor? And I bet you there was some similarities there as well. I thought that was just really, really, really interesting. I hadn't learned that about Gandhi, but how he, when I read that, how Gandhi was also focused on not so much himself, but learning about others. And I thought that was really big. All right. We're still answering this question about what is religion. If you see, everybody always gets scared. Can you see my screen where it says, what is religion?
Yes.
All right. All right. It's a sense of belonging. And when we say it's a sense of belonging, many times, and I'm in chapter 3, many times people will follow a religion because they were raised in something. For example, I'll just use myself. I was raised in Christianity. My parents took me to church. My mom and dad are well, my dad's passed or Christian, and my mom's still here. That's what I follow. So many times, a lot in your book, the sociologist would find that people follow something because of the people around them, because of the people or persons who raised them, whether you were raised by your parents, your grandparents, we usually follow what they did. Unless it was something that you just didn't agree with and you got older and were like, not doing that. But religion is a sense of belonging. You follow usually the religion that is around you. Religion is also emotional. It helps people feel. It helps people to express, whether it is grief or love, even the emotions that, people say, you don't want that, anger, disappointment, right? Bewilderment. Religion helps us with our emotions. Now, I want to ask you this question. This was really interesting. It was, I think it's page 32, 31. And there were some studies that were done that you'll find in your book. One of the studies that was done was by Barbara King, and she studied these animals. And it was really interesting how she studied, I want to say it was it gorillas or apes? But she found that these particular animals would do the same thing over and over. She found that these animals were empathetic to each other. They would corral around each other when they were hurt. So it was interesting. So it brought up the question, are even animals religious? Now, not to say that your pets are practicing some type of religion, right? But it was interesting to see in this particular study that there were routines even done by animals of support for each other. Sometimes I think they're smarter than us. All right. Okay. I'm moving a little fast. Please forgive me here. All right. So if you have your books, you're going to check this out on page 33. But we're going to talk about myths real quick. And myths sometimes get a bad rap. Y'all heard the word myth. And let me just pause right here. When we say myth, somebody open your microphone. What would you say a myth is?
Something that can't be proven, like to be true.
Did you say can or cannot?
Cannot.
Cannot be proven to be true. Okay. So it's like a story, right? Myths are stories. They help to shape the values that we hold. And guess what? Every religion uses myths. Every religion uses myths. So you're going to find myths are stories. Myths are narratives. And sometimes, and I'm going to just speak from a Christian perspective, sometimes when we hear the word myths, we think like, oh, that's just a lie, it's wrong. Not necessarily. Sometimes myths get a bad rap. Okay. A lot of myths can have some truth to them. So let's go right here to the second part of that on your screen. Myths shape our values and they shape our lives. They're narratives, they're stories, and they can point to truths. They can point to realities that have expanded over time. Okay, so we're going to look at a couple of things here. Ooh, I'm running on time. We're going to look at a couple of things here when we talk about myths. Now, I'm going to have to move quickly here. When we talk about myths, one of the assignments I think that you have is going to deal with the myth of creation. All right, when we talk about myths, I want you to, I'm going to have to send this to you because we're not going to be able to look at it right now. I got 10 minutes left, but there are lots of myths when it comes to creation. Lots of myths about creation. Why? Because we don't really know, right? None of us here, none of our parents, our grandparents, our great-grandparents, great for 100 times, none of them were there to say what really happened. Don't know. So in all religions, you get some type of myth to say, this is how it got started. So one of them is called the Enuma Elish. Enuma Elish. And this is the Babylonian epic of creation. I'm going to try to send you that video. We're going to be able to watch it today. We won't have time. But Enuma Elish is one of the oldest, if not the oldest in the world. We don't really know, but one of the oldest creation stories. And in the Enuma Elish, it is concerned with, it talks about these gods that created the universe and created human beings. In the beginning, it says that there was a swirl. There was like this swirling chaos in the water. And out of this swirl, the waters were divided into fresh water. And this was a god named Apsu, A-P-S-U. And then out of that other water was salty, bitter water of a goddess named Tiamat. Okay, Tiamat. Okay, and then these two gods come together and make other gods that do other things in the world. So this is a myth. This is a myth. This is one of the oldest myths, and it's called, remember, Enuma Elish. It's called the Enuma Elish. So remember, myths sometimes get a bad rap, but myths simply help us to understand the world. Okay, they help us to understand how something happened. All right, please forgive me because I am going to looking at my clock here, and I'm gonna try to get to these last two slides. So just hang with me because I do need to show you one thing. All right, so creation stories. We talked about the Enuma Elish. It's an ancient story. And then I want to talk to you about the Rig Veda. Rig Veda. I believe the Rig Veda is a creation story that comes out of, I want to say it's Hindu. Okay. Sandy Lake Cree is a creation story that comes from Native Americans in Ontario, Canada. And let me just deal with Sandy Lake Cree, and then I'm gonna get back to Rig Veda. The Sandy Lake Cree story, you're gonna find this on page 36, 37 of your textbook. If you have it with you, you can just pull it open, 36, 37 of your textbook. And in the Sandy Lake Cree creation stories, they attribute creation to a female god or goddess. And one of the things that is interesting, let me go to the Rig Veda, but one of the things that is interesting about Native American religion and also African religion is that you will find that women or females, women are seen in, what's the word? Seen in like deity roles, more so than you will see in other religions. So you'll see it more so in a lot of African religions. You'll see female goddess and things like that. But anyway, in the Sandy Lake Cree creation story, creation is attributed to a female. Also in the Sandy Lake Cree, it also speaks of something very similar to in the Christian Bible. It speaks of floods and rain coming to the earth, and very interesting similarities that you'll see there. All right, y'all, please forgive me. I'm going to, let me transition and let me see if I can get to the Rig Veda. And I just want you to see something here. You guys are doing good. All right. Let me have a student, let me know if you can see on the screen. It should be, well, you're going to see lots of words, but you should see right here, it says the hymn of creation.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now remember, let me go back. The Rig Veda is a creation story that comes from Hindu. Y'all remember that? Hindu. This is page, you can go to like page 35 of your text. And I can't give you all of this. I'm going to post this for you. That's what I'll do. I'll post this for you in, let me make myself a note. I'm going to post this for you in your class, but also you'll see part of it on page 35. This is a hymn of creation. And let me just read a little bit for you. So this is from the Hindu religion. It says that the hymn explores the issue of the creation of the universe, which is depicted as mysterious and perhaps ultimately an unknowable process. Let me scoot down a little bit. It says there was neither death nor immortality. There was not a distinction of day or night. That alone breathed windless by its own power. It says darkness was hidden by darkness in the beginning. All this was an indistinguishable sea. So anyway, I'm going to post it for you. You'll see it on page 35. It's like a hymn of creation. But as you start to read some of this, it's really interesting how you may find some similarities to other religion stories of creation. Okay, of course, there are going to be some things that are not similar, but there are going to be some stories that, excuse me, not stories, some aspects that are similar. Okay. So let me go back here. Y'all still with me? Okay, we're gonna wrap up here. All right, everybody, gonna come right back to you. I'm gonna wrap this up. Now, on that previous slide, we talked about origin stories. We talked about the Rig Veda. Rig Veda came from what religion? Somebody open your mic.
Hindu.
Hindu.
Hindu. Very
Hindu.
good. Sandy Lake Cree came from what religion?
Native American.
Very good. Very good.
Canada.
Yes, the Canadian Ontario Canadian Indians. Very good.
Professor Berry, excuse me, in terms of time, were all these at the same time, or was like before the Egyptian religion, or were they around the same time period?
Sandy Lake Cree would have been afterwards. The most ancient one, sorry, I'm looking into the screen like that. The most ancient one would be Enuma Elish.
Okay.
That would have dated, and they say that is the oldest creation story they believe. And so you'll have like Rig Veda would have come much, much later.
Thank you.
You are more than welcome. All right, everybody, we're going to go into the home stretch here. We are looking at Christianity origin story. So remember, today we're talking about origins and looking at religion and where did it come from and how does it help us make sense of the world. In my Old Testament class, we actually talked about this. Did we talk about this last week? Yeah, last week, where we looked at the book of Genesis and looked at creation. This is an origin story. You have to put it in the beginning. You couldn't put this at the end. You had to put this story in the beginning to help people figure out how did we get here. So I just want you to see on the screen. For my Old Testament folks, we already did this. We read it out. But I just want you to see this quickly on the screen. In Genesis 1 through chapter 2, verse 4, there is one story of creation. And then we found in Genesis chapter 2, verses 4 through 25, there's another story of creation. None of the stories contradict each other. And many times, and I'm going into my Old Testament course, many times the Bible was not seamless. You know, sometimes when we didn't have cut and paste and all that stuff and white out. And when things came together, it came together, but it may not have always been seamless. So anyway, in the first story, you have man and woman were created at the same time. In the second story in Genesis 2, God created the man first and then the lady. On the left-hand side, in the first story of creation, God creates the earth and everything in it before he created the man. And in Genesis 2, in that story, God creates the man first and then he fills it with plants and animals and all the good things. So I just want you to see, the stories are not necessarily contradicting that, this didn't happen. but they are, what I want you to simply see is these are stories of creation. These are stories of origin. And some things are different, but there's a similar story. There's a similar thread that the Creator God was responsible for all of these things. Okay. Right. All right. We did good. It's 12:02. Any questions, comments?
Good session. I said it was a good session.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. And this makes us, I ask those questions. Remember, it's not necessarily right or wrong. We're not saying, oh, you're wrong. That's not it. That's not about it in this particular course. It's about opening our minds. I'm going to stretch you. I'm going to keep asking questions of you because it's just gaining a different perspective. Remember, yes, we come with our own lenses of how we were raised and our own religious background. But in this particular course, we're also looking and we're stretching, just like Gandhi did, right? And even though he followed what he followed in his religion, he took a peek at others and said, oh, this is how they do it over there. Not that he was going to go and join, but he just wanted to figure out, how do they express love over there? All right, let me take the roll real quick. We had some folks joining. I got Marshall, Pretty, Hakeem, Gloria, got Janice, Dante, Lee, Walter, that's Lester. Oh, Malik, yeah. Carolyn, that's all right. Okay, I got you. All right, everybody, any questions or comments for me? I'm sorry I had to rush you there at the end. All right. Gloria, I'm sorry I missed your comment. Sometimes I can't see the comments when I got the screen up. But yes, I think James brought that song up, A Change Is Going to Come. Yes. All right. All right, so that's your challenge this week. That's your challenge this week. I know you got your other homework. As you are observing as a religious studies scholar, look around at some things that we deem religious or religious places, religious songs. And also, I want you to take a listen, or what are some things that would be considered secular? And could you find any religious connotation in it? Maybe. Okay. All right. Stretch your minds there. I'm going to see you same place next week. And I'll see my Old Testament people tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a
You like
blessed
it?
one.
Bye.
All right.
Have a good day.
Have a great day.
Have a good one.
All right, bye.
Be
Bye-bye.
blessed.
You too.